All right, at this time, I'm going to call the, what's today, August 26th, 2014, Placerville City Council meeting to order at this time. Would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Zito, would we have the roll call, please?
Vice Mayor Borelli.
Here.
Mayor Hagan.
Here.
Councilmember Patton is noted as absent. Councilmember Thomas.
Here.
Councilmember Wilkins.
Here.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to move on to closed session report. Mr. Driscoll. We're going to come back to announcements and presentations to the public.
Thank you, Mayor Hagan. Tonight, added to the agenda was a closed session item on the basis that it was a matter that had arisen since the publication of the agenda and required action prior to the next council meeting. The council voted to add that to the agenda. Closed session did take place. It was concerning existing litigation, case number PCL 2014-0485, filed in the Superior Court of California, El Dorado County. And that matter was the subject of the closed session. No action was taken, however, which could be reported. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to adopt the agenda with the change of moving item 3 to follow item 6.
So moved. Second.
Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. With that, we've adopted the agenda for this meeting. Under ceremonial matters, I'd like the Chief of Police to introduce a couple of new police officers. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. If you guys want to stand up, this is.
You don't have to scare them.
Yeah, I'm just.
Yeah, right there. That's good. Yes.
This is Isabel Zacharias and Aaron Johnson. They're two police officers from our department. Isabel comes to us from the Delta Community College Police Department, where she has been a CSO and dispatcher. She also won a statewide award, I should say, for service for all community colleges and universities this past year, for all colleges and university police departments this past year. So she was recognized with only 2 or 3 other folks throughout the state for a very prestigious award there. She spent about two years and some change down there. She enrolled herself into the police academy at Delta College, worked her way through. We did some visits down there and talked to some staff, and they said we better grab her before she gets taken, and we did so at the 11th hour. So, very, very fortunate for us and her. Aaron comes to us from Citrus Heights. He's been working at Citrus Heights for the last about 2.5 years. He was a level 1 reserve there, where he pushed a black and white patrol car solo on the streets of Citrus Heights, handling a pretty good volume of calls for service. Aaron's originally from the region, the Sacramento region, and he has a 2-year-old daughter. And what other good things can I say about you, Aaron? Want to add anything? No? Doing okay? Okay. He was down there, like I say, for about 2 years, came up, and both of these officers went through a extensive recruitment effort and background. Just to give you a quick backdrop, and then I'll cut it off. I got here in September. I had a couple vacancies since then, authorized positions. Rather than hurry and possibly trip up as a new chief to the city and perhaps make some sort of pick that I would regret, we really sat together with our department and with Human Resources with Susan, and we really did a lot of things to try and get the best quality folks, best candidates we could. I think when all was said and done, we probably went through multiple recruitments, continuous recruitments, deadline recruitments, interviews, some backgrounds that didn't quite pan out, some that eventually did. And anyway, up and down the state, law enforcement is dealing with a tremendous recruiting issue. And so everybody, now that there are some positions available, everybody's fighting over these candidates. And there's a shortage of them. And I think some of that could be a sign of the times. But anyway, after about 10, 11 months now of searching and the process and the backgrounds and the exams and the testing and everything that goes through this, the vetting process. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled to have these two officers standing here. I'm very proud of them. They made it through a search of about 50, 60, maybe 70 candidates. These are the best officers I could find for this community. And so I welcome them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Be safe out there. We appreciate it. They've already been sworn in. They've been sworn in and they're on the streets, is my understanding, right?
Yeah, they were sworn in during the recess, and let's see, when was it, Susan? 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Yeah, it was in July. We swore them both in on their very first day of work.
Great.
We were not going to let them go,
Like
were
at
we?
8:01 a.m. We swore them in.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, they're not official till we say they're official, so we made them official real quickly.
Great. Well, thank you very much, and thanks for showing up, and thanks for the rest of you, the officers and crew here, for showing up this evening and supporting these officers. And again, it's okay after I finish a couple of ceremonial things. If you guys have to leave because you've been working all day or you've got to show up tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. or something, it'd be okay with me if you have to leave. Don't feel bad on my account. I don't know about the chief, but it's okay with me. So at this time, I'm going to move on to item 6.2. And I understand Richard Montgomery is here in the audience, and he will be accepting a proclamation on behalf of the City Council. It's declaring that September 2014 as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Placerville. Whereas prostate cancer is the most frequently diagnosed cancer in men, aside from skin cancer, and is estimated that 1 in 7 men will develop this disease in their lifetime, and whereas the American Cancer Society estimates that there will be 233,000 new cases of prostate cancer in the U.S. in 2014, resulting in an estimated 29,000 deaths, and whereas an estimated 23,000 men in California will be diagnosed with prostate cancer this year, and that 3,380 of those will die from the disease. And whereas the survival rates approach 100% when prostate cancer is diagnosed and treated early, but drops to 28% when spreads to other parts of the body. And whereas early prostate cancer usually has no symptoms, and studies suggest strong familiarity predisposition may be responsible for 5 to 10% of those disease cases, and whereas treatment options for prostate cancer vary depending on the man's age, stage, and grade of this cancer, as well as other existing medical conditions. And whereas the American Cancer Society recommends that all men should be given sufficient information about the benefits and limitations of testing and early detection to allow them to make a decision based on their personal values and preferences. And whereas the City of Placerville joins communities across our nation to increase the awareness that about the importance of men to make an informed decision with their health care provider about early detection and testing for prostate cancer. Now, therefore, I, Carl Hagan, the mayor of Placerville, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2014 as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Placerville, and I commend this observance to all citizens. So if you're a male and you're over 50, be sure to follow closely your exams. See a good pharmacist or doctor. Mr. Montgomery?
My name is Richard Montgomery, and I'm a 17-year prostate cancer survivor. I live in Cameron Park, and I facilitate the local prostate cancer support group. I work with UCD, and I'm a peer navigator. All that means is I try to hook up with people who've been diagnosed and let them go one-on-one. back to the mayor's comment, let's drop the 50 to 40 is a good place for most people. If you're an African American, 35 works. The biggest thing is testing is so-so. It's called a PSA. The doctor can prescribe it. It's a very simple blood test when they're drawing any other blood for your annual physical. Please get it done. I really love it when we have female council members and ladies in the audience because the women hear the message. Men don't like to hear the C word and do not like to recognize what they need to do about it. So that's usually about 90% of a battle, is getting somebody to pay attention. I gave the council members a little handout. It's a lot of the same awareness jargon. I also tried to get down some tips for cancer patients, also how to have a conversation with your doctor, and last but not least, a one-page on all of the prostate support groups that are in the Sacramento area. So beyond that, I'd like to reinforce no symptoms. So it's one of those that can catch you, and if it catches you too late, it's tough. Beyond that, say again, get tested and do it regularly. Pay attention.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. This time I'd like to ask the Chief of Police again, Scott, to talk about recognition of our National Night Out organizers.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. National Night Out organizers, liaisons, you can come up. This past, what was it, how many weeks now? 2 weeks back? The 5th?
2 or 3 now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's probably.
On August 5th, we had our National Night Out, and we were defending our first place title, and I think most of the folks I see here were participating in that event, including the snow cones and whatnot. And I think everybody did some heavy lifting, and but most of all, the 2 coordinators, I'd like to recognize them for their efforts because they began this quite some time ago. And now that the party's over, they actually have to do some more heavy lifting to put together all of our stuff to present to Town Watch so that we can be judged for how well we did. So the work hasn't ended yet. But anyway, with that, I would just like to recognize Amber and Crystal for the great job they did. And if you guys want to take the mic, be my guest.
We'd love to.
He didn't mean take the mic, he meant speak into the mic.
Okay, we
Less than
actually
3
had
minutes.
We had a, I'll make it less than like a minute.
All right.
We had a very successful National Night Out. All of our large locations, the main locations like Moore, the library, Benham Park, and Grocery Outlet, all had a really good turnout. Benham Park actually, I think, had the highest turnout we've had, I think, out of all of our National Night Out so far. The live bands and the bounce houses were a really good addition this year, and the DJs, so we're gonna obviously do that next year to attract more people. And it was really successful. It was nothing but positive feedback and positive words from all around. So it was a good night. It went very smooth.
And we want to thank again all the sponsors, everybody who participated, everybody who showed up for the event. It was just everything came together and went really well. And like she said, we had tons of positive feedback. So we really want to thank all the businesses who sponsored us and participated, and then all the volunteer groups and organizations such as Fire and Search and Rescue and everybody who came out.
Thank you.
Yes. At this point, last thing we wanted to talk about is we're working on a scrapbook. We have to turn in a scrapbook that we give to the National Association of Town Watch, and that's how we get judged. So if anybody took any pictures or has anything they want to turn in for the scrapbook, just please bring it by the PD, and then just cross your fingers and hope we get first place again.
One of the things I would like to suggest too is if we can do a link on any of that or mention it to Channel 2, has edited, put together a, I don't know what, 5-minute presentation, 10-minute presentation on the National Night Out of all the different locations and so forth, and it's finished editing, and it's on what's on the on your website, which is, go ahead and speak
Yeah,
up,
if you want,
George.
yeah.
I want that because I want everybody to know if they didn't participate, here's an opportunity to see what took place that evening.
Absolutely. Sierra Community Access Television, it's Comcast Channel 2, is premiering tonight at 10 p.m. National Night Out at Grocery Outlet, and it features interviews with Chief Heller and Mayor Hagan and Councilwoman Borelli, and has the band 120 West. And anyway, it's premieres tonight. It's on Wednesday at 8 p.m. It's Friday the 29th at 6:30, Tuesday the 2nd at 10 p.m., Wednesday the 3rd at 8 p.m., and you can watch it on demand at our website, which is sierratv2.blogspot.com. That's sierratv2.blogspot.com. I have brochures with that information here. We also have a new YouTube channel, and that's where the video is posted and we have a Placerville playlist where there's over 30 videos featuring Huell Hauser, a series I produced, Nuggets of El Dorado History, stuff on Johnny Studebaker. In fact, this is going to be a great way for our new police officers to learn about our town. So let me give you.
All right.
So are they, Scott, Chief, are they allowed to send in a video along with the scrapbook? Is that?
Yeah, that's what I believe we did that last year as part
I
of the process.
thought we did too,
Yeah.
so yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah, we have, they've collected a lot already, and we'll combine it with the Channel 2 footage and
Good.
the social media footage we received. And we've got, I saw the video, the preview from up on Broadway there, and it was tremendous coverage. And then they have some more from some of the courts and the other block parties. And once they get it all assembled, do some editing with our IT guys and get together, and we'll hopefully get a good product to
Very
get
good.
up there.
Great, oh, that's
It
great.
was such a fun event. You guys just did a heck of a job. We
Yeah.
sure appreciate all your
Thank you.
efforts on that. It was really fun.
And I couldn't agree more that the music really added to
It was
the
a nice
fun.
addition, yes.
The snow cones were great, Steve.
Snow cones were, I didn't get a snow cone.
I didn't get a snow cone.
The two of us didn't get snow cones. You got any in the back?
We
All right.
dropped 3 of them.
Okay. Thank you very much, ladies, and again, appreciate
Yeah,
it.
we
from the-
really
from the
appreciate
top.
it.
Thank you for all the hard work. Everybody just leave that down there and leave that down there, be fine. Thanks, George. All right, at this time, if I can get George off the stage. We're going to move on to announcements. And I would like to, many of you know her. At this time, I'll introduce our former mayor and city council member. Steve Ewell? What's he doing?
Under announcements.
Oh, darn it. Sorry, Steve.
That's all right. Always up to something.
You're 3.1, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to take this opportunity to remind everyone that we have a great Labor Day special event weekend planned where we're going to have special priest mine tours out at Goldbug Park. That's Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And tickets are $4, and the proceeds are going to establish new exhibits within the park. So ticket sales will start at 10 a.m. and tours start at 10:15. So I encourage everybody to bring their families out and enjoy this great weather and in a great venue.
I think they're going from till 3 or 3:30?
That's correct, till 3:30.
Okay. Thanks.
Yay!
That actually is, it's going to be a fun tour. If you haven't ever toured the Priest Mine, it is a fun event. It's different than the other tours, but it is a great opportunity to see hard rock mining at its best. Okay, on 3.2, Wendy Matson. Are you ready?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes. All right. First, I'd like a happy announcement. We have 2 government students visiting us tonight, John and Julia, and they are both from Ponderosa High School. And Julia is an exchange student from Ukraine, and she speaks better English than I do. So it's just delightful to have you both here tonight, and it's just thanks for taking part in our government process. So that's the fun stuff.
Welcome.
Yeah.
All right. I do have an announcement at this point. Last week, a flyer was widely distributed informing the public about a scoping meeting tomorrow night for the Clay Street Cedar Ravine Improvement Project. This flyer did the public a great disservice, for it was a proliferation of misstatements, unfounded allegations, and some outright lies. And it's time that we stand for the truth. This is a nameless flyer, and it has grossly misled you. This author has hidden behind the name of Friends of Historic Preservation. And whether it was penned by an individual or a group, I challenge that author to show up with integrity and be accountable for their words. They demand that of us. The public has a right to correct information, and so I'd like to do that. The meeting tomorrow night is a scoping meeting as part of the EIR process. The flyer billed it as a Planning Commission hearing. This meeting has nothing to do with the Planning Commission, and it is not a public hearing. It is a courtesy to the public, which gives you the unique opportunity to ask questions from the professionals involved about the EIR process and the potential impacts involved in the project. Next, the flyer stated that the work being done was, and I quote, "the result of a biased $200,000 environmental impact study on the roundabout options pushed in the council last October by Councilmember Wendy Thomas while serving as mayor, even though she also sat on the board of directors of Marshall Hospital." That's quite a desperate stretch, which I take offense to. First, the EIR and the cost involved is the direct result of a court order which stemmed from a lawsuit that Friends of Historic Hangtown brought against the city of Placerville. We are in the middle of the process that the court directed. Yes, I am a proud member of the board of directors of Marshall Hospital, and that has nothing to do with this intersection. Marshall Hospital has always taken a neutral stance on this project. They are neither for or against it. The intersection benefits and serves the public at large, not just those who go to Marshall Medical Center. To make sweeping misstatements which attempt to insinuate corruption is reprehensible. We are at a crossroads, and we need to decide how we're going to deal with issues going forward. Will we continue to make wild accusations, twist the truth, call each other names, and ignore the facts? Or will we be open to diverse perspectives and rationally discuss the issues so we can reach the best decisions? At the end of the day, we may disagree with each other. And let's have the integrity to do that with honesty and respect. Finally, the flyer calls this project a new scheme. The Clay Street Bridge widening and the realignment of Clay Street has been part of the scope of this project for years. In fact, when I was elected to the council 4 years ago, the city was in the middle of the public process for these exact improvements. This is certainly not, and I quote, "a radical plan quietly going forward," as the author alleges. And that statement is an affront to our city staff. I am proud to serve with the 5 members of this council and with our entire staff, who I have come to know as ethical, hardworking, and dedicated stewards of our community who are diligent about using the resources we have to improve our infrastructure and provide the essential services to our city which you depend on and enjoy. A community member shared this quote, which speaks to the heart of the matter. Discussion is an exchange of knowledge. Argument is the exchange of ignorance. And this document is a clear example of the exchange of ignorance. Whether we agree or disagree on the issues, let us move to a place of honest civil discourse and not distribute or perpetuate false information. Let us deal with facts, not assumptions. Let's deal with issues, not baseless allegations. Let's be willing to foster the creative exchange of ideas and even disagree with each other respectfully, not manipulate the public process to further a personal agenda. Let's deal with truth and have honest discussions which build our city, not create falsehoods which are destroying the spirit and the very essence of the community we profess to love. It is time to stand up against this nonsense because our community deserves better.
Thank you, Wendy. Please. All right, at this time, it's time for open the microphone to public comment, brief non-agenda items. First thing, are there any written communications? Mr. Warren?
No, Mr. Mayor, we have no written
Okay,
communications.
so when we open the microphone up, please note you'll be limited to 3 minutes. Please do not make any personal attacks on individuals or make comments which are slanderous or may invade the individual's personal privacy. So at this point, I'll open the dais for first speaker. Please state your name for the record, and you'll be limited to 3 minutes.
I won't need 3 minutes.
Thank you.
My name is Jackie No, and I recently received a call for action from the Placerville Historic Preservation League regarding the Clay Street realignment and Measure K. I can find no information on this group, not a Facebook, not a website, not a phone number, and I have many questions for them. So I'd like to ask them to stop taking snarky sniper shots from the shadows and come out and be open and transparent. I'd like to challenge them to a friendly citizens versus citizens debate on Measure K. Let's leave the city council out of this. Let's talk about the facts. This email that I received originated from Sue Taylor. So I challenge Sue Taylor and two of her group to have a 3-on-3 debate of the citizens to be held here in the city with a moderator we can agree on. I await your answer, Placerville Historic Preservation League. I will be at tomorrow's meeting where you have asked me to attend. My name is Jackie No, and I represent the group Citizens for No on Measure K.
Okay, thank you. And next.
My name is David Price, and in the interest of having facts presented, I consistently hear from the council and council members that the Friends of Historic Hangtown brought a lawsuit upon the city as if the city was innocent and we just decided to sue the city. The judge stated that the city of Placerville abused its discretion and failed to proceed in a manner required by law when it approved the project and adopted the mitigated negative declaration. So I don't want to go into more detail now, I will at another time, but I want to clear that we only brought a lawsuit because the city broke the law.
Okay. Any additional comments from the public?
Good evening, Mayor Hagan. I try not to be say anything really bad, although your bald head is bald. But anyhow, first off, if you're going to distribute...
Got on your funny boots?
What's that?
You got on your funny boots?
No, it's too warm right now,
Okay,
sir. But you know, give me November, and I will have my boots on. Anyhow, this letter, I received it. I'm sure just about everybody received it about 18 different ways. It really offended me. And first off, you know, if you're going to distribute something as inflammatory as this, you know, please have the guts to sign the darn thing. You know, I was there, I was here, I was at Scout Hall 9 years ago, 10 years ago, when the first scoping meetings were done about the original roundabout. There was the 4 alternatives. John, I think you were there way back when. Steve Calfee. Pierre, you were probably, I don't think you were quite there yet. But anyhow, it was way back when. And we looked at it and decided it. There was the 4 alternatives, and it was, to be straight up honest with you, I wasn't for the roundabout. Then they explained to me, you know, how the funding mechanisms work and how a roundabout in you know, this situation over here would work, and it would be, it made sense to me once it was explained to me. But one thing I think, you know, the greatest concern from what I remember at that time is, in talking with Calfee and all those people back then, is that they wanted to make more of a entrance into historic Placerville instead of, what's there right now. And so the thought was a roundabout, might be kind of cool. We put in a roundabout, put the Druid Monument right there in the center, do some type of, maybe some gold mining artifacts or something in the center, and it would be a entrance from that side of Placerville into historic Main Street. And it was like, wow, that was cool, And then the other thing, the real concern was the Clay Street Bridge. It's obviously substandard. It needs to be replaced. It's, 14 feet wide, I think. One of these days we're going to have a flood. I know, it hasn't rained in 12 years, but it's going to eventually. And that bridge is going to get taken out, And so, part of this whole project is to fix that bridge. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just reading here. And like I said, it's not all about traffic. It's not all about mitigating traffic. It's about enhancing Main Street and that section of Placerville. And I think a roundabout, or as I think you guys have pretty much chosen, now I'm still for the roundabout, and I hope at some point you can think about that. I think it's just going to make an excellent entrance into our historic downtown. So thank you very much.
Thanks. Next.
Hi, I'm Laura Clark from Placerville. I also got this, I don't know what to call it, seemed like an emotional vent. I read it several times, kind of trying to understand it, and what I got out of it was that it was like a child's temper tantrum. It didn't contain facts. I didn't read facts. I read that it was a planning commission meeting. It's not a planning commission meeting. I tried to read between the lines. I would welcome debate because I can't find any fact in that. I don't know who those people are, and I really do need facts. I don't know what I'm for or against just yet, but I'm for intelligent discussion. And I welcome the ideas of others. I really would like to hear what other people have to say. But, from time to time, my husband and I discuss whether or not we should sell our house that's out in the county and move into the city, which is why you see me here, because I'd like to know that before I come here. And this doesn't welcome me. I like intelligent discussion. I like debate. I'd like to hear what the other side has to say, but I couldn't get it out of whatever that was written. It was no better than a temper tantrum. And the sky is not falling, and this is not how adults communicate. And as just Joe citizen, or Joni citizen, I'm just kind of disgusted by the whole thing. Give me some facts. Give me something to work with. Tell me what you think, but I'll make up my own mind. And this isn't what that is. So yes to the debate. Yes, I'll be here. I have questions for both sides. And whether or not, I'm not emotional about the roundabout at all. If you go back far enough, it was already a roundabout. Whatever. The best decisions will be made, but I can't make heads or tails of whatever that was written. It was a child's temper tantrum. And I'm really sorry that it was directed at the council, because for every council meeting that I've been here for, I've seen nothing but some really nice things happen with some really nice people on the council.
Thank you, Laura.
Marion Washburn, City of Placerville. I'm not going to belabor the point, but I do want to endorse what Councilmember Thomas has said. I think it takes a lot of courage to say all of that in the public forum, and I hope that the citizens of Placerville listen carefully and give that a lot of thought as the election process goes along. And I'm not campaigning for any single member of council saying that, but I am highly opposed to the measure that the initiative that was kind of the veiled issue behind the letter. So I'm not saying that too well that way. But anyway, Measure K deals with the roundabout issue out as a large issue, and it needs to be spoken of and debated in rational terms rather than the ones that were cited by Councilmember Thomas. So I'm here to thank you for having said what you said, and hope that people listen carefully.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Hagan and members of the council. Kathy Lishman. I just want to say I know a lawsuit was filed. I do not have an opinion on the roundabout. I have not studied it carefully. Once the debate started, I just didn't even follow it. And you do have to study it. You do have to find out the facts about the issue. So a lawsuit was filed and the city has to do an environmental impact report, I assume. And yet what I'm feeling is that that process is being sabotaged. The council voted to take out the roundabout, but I'm not sure technically with an environmental impact report that it can be taken out. I would think it would still have to be one of the alternatives. And my hope is that through the environmental process, we will come up with some great solutions that the community can look at and not sabotage the process that's going on right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other person wishing to speak on this item, on any item not on our agenda? If that's the case, I'm going to close the oral communication section, and at this point we'll delve to answer some of the questions that were brought up. So, the lawsuit question that Mr. Price objects to, they sued us because they felt that the environmental impact statement was deficient. And I understand that as a result of that, we were ordered to perform a new environmental impact report because we did a neg deck, and the neg deck was deficient. And so maybe we can explain that to the public in general.
Well, I'll give it a try. The city did a mitigated negative deck with respect to the project, and a mitigated negative deck means that there are impacts, but they can be mitigated through various mitigation measures, and that there is no potentially significant impacts. So that was challenged on several grounds, primarily having to do with traffic issues, as I remember. Traffic counts, traffic issues. And the court, in essence, said you didn't look at these areas sufficiently, with traffic being the one I remember the most. And therefore, if you're going to go ahead with this project, and the project being the Cedar Ravine Main Street realignment, roundabout, or otherwise, you need to do a full environmental impact report, which is what the city is going through right now, which is an analysis. It's a very technical, involved process designed to flesh out all of the impacts that may result from a project, determine whether or not they are significant, whether they are potentially significant, and whether or not they can be mitigated.
Okay, thank you. And then I believe there was, well, that was pretty much it, except I believe somebody indicated there was a question about the roundabout. Can it still go forward based on the council's action at the last 2 council meetings ago?
I think the comment was the fact that the council has taken the roundabout out as consideration for this particular project. Doesn't the environmental process still have to look at that as an alternative? And what is required is a review of all feasible alternatives. If an alternative is prohibited by law or by council action, it would not be feasible. The council is not required to look at every possible alternative. It can choose the alternatives it wants to look at. The one alternative that has to be included in a environmental impact report is the no project alternative. But in this case, I don't believe that you are required to look at a roundabout as an alternative since you've taken it off the table, so to speak.
Okay. And Mr. Pierre Rivas, any comments from you, that questions you'd had that you wanted to answer on this? It's specific as to the EIR and the purpose of the EIR and the purpose of the scoping.
I guess one comment I would like to make, and that was a speaker earlier that said that the city broke the law. I just, you could look at that a lot of different ways. I think there's a difference between breaking the law as opposed to, for example, stealing a car, breaking, entering, that sort of thing, where it's more of a criminal action. I think the city performed in how it felt was an appropriate discretion in terms of following the Environmental Quality Act when the city attempted to move forward with the project under a mitigated negative declaration, meaning that the city felt that all the impacts that were identified would have been reduced to a level of insignificance. So the petitioners came to the court, and this happens all the time. It's extremely common that negative declarations and mitigated negative declarations are challenged in court, and the court typically will defer that then the public agency would cause a preparation of an environmental impact report, which basically is a higher level document. That document then would perform the same environmental review as a negative declaration. It would also prescribe mitigation measures to reduce any identified impacts through implementation of the project to a level of insignificance. One of the benefits, though, of doing an environmental impact report is, should the public agency find that any particular impact can't be feasibly mitigated, then the decision-making body would have the opportunity to make a finding of overriding considerations, and therefore approve the project despite the identification of any significant impacts. You can't do that with a mitigated negative declaration. Every impact identified must be mitigated to a level of insignificance. So, following the judge's ruling, the city is preparing an environmental impact report as requested. Tomorrow, city staff will be holding what's called a scoping meeting. And a scoping meeting is typically where a public agency will meet and confer with either responsible or trustee agencies. Responsible agencies would be an agency that has approving authority over the project. For example, Caltrans. Since, for example, in this particular project, the Clay Street project, Caltrans is the partner in the project. They're a funding agency, so they're a responsible agency. A trustee agency, on the other hand, would be a state agency that may have authority over regulation or review of a resource. For example, replacement of the bridge is going to be over Hangtown Creek. So Hangtown Creek is a biological resource, so the Department of Fish and Wildlife would be a trustee agency having regulatory authority. Any of those agencies can request a scoping meeting, and then the city would have a meeting then with these agencies, so that those agencies would be then telling the city, make sure that you cover these items in your environmental impact report. So the city did not receive any requests from any trustee or responsible agency to hold a scoping meeting. So it's not required. The city is holding a scoping meeting for the benefit of the public. So the scoping meeting then is to scope the content and information to be contained within the EIR. So we're holding this for the benefit of the public. It'll be more of a question and answer format. So I, of course, will be there overseeing the preparation of the EIR on behalf of the city. Our consultant will be there, Kelly Jackson. She's the project manager for PMC. They're the consultant that the city is contracted with to prepare the environmental impact report. Fear and Peers, they're a traffic engineering firm. They're a subconsultant to PMC. They will also be there to answer questions, since, as Mr. Driscoll pointed out earlier, that was one of the main issues in the negative declaration was traffic impacts, so they will be there to answer questions. And again, it's focusing in not so much on the project, but on the CEQA process and how the city is attempting to prepare an environmental impact report that will be a full disclosure document to disclose all impacts, show how those impacts are attempted to be mitigated, so that when eventually the EIR comes before the council for certification, then the council will have the ability to certify the document, essentially certifying that it complies with the California Environmental Quality Act. An action on the CEQA document is required before the city can take any action on the project. So we're hoping we'll get some meaningful feedback from the public tomorrow night, and we're hoping for any questions they may have with respect to maybe a flyer that went out and caused some misinformation. The whole idea is to provide the right information to the public.
Okay, thank you. Any council members have any comments, questions on that part of that public comment period? Okay, at this point, we're at consent calendar. We have 8.1 through 8.12. Any council member wish to remove one of those items? Seeing nobody there, I'll ask for any public comment on items 8.1 through 8.12. Consent calendar items, obviously, are routine, and a roll call vote will be brought at the end of that. Any comments? Seeing nobody coming to the dais, I will call for the question, or a motion, I should say.
So move.
Second?
So moved and seconded. Please call roll. Ms. Zito?
Vice Mayor Borelli?
Aye.
Mayor Hagan?
Here.
Aye.
Aye. You were confused me.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins?
Aye.
I am here also.
I'd just like to say I love the budget fact sheet. That was awesome. Very clear.
Yeah, there was some great stuff in there, and thank you. And also, I'd like to thank the engineering department and Mr. Rivas's department also for making sure that we're moving forward on the trails and the other items that were brought forward by the engineering department. And Mr.
I don't know if Mr. Rivas would like to introduce the interim city engineer.
Can't hear you. Your mic's on.
I don't know if Mr. Rivas would like to introduce the interim city engineer who's sitting at the table with him.
Yes, I
now that
certainly would. Thank you very much, Mr. Cisco. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to comment on item 8.10, now that you've basically approved the agreement with OmniMeans Ltd. To serve as interim city engineer for the city. I'd like to start by introducing Lindsay Van Paris. She's on my far right, and Lindsay is would be assisting our interim city engineer, which is Larry Wing. Let me start by saying that Ms. Paris has about 7 years' experience as a civil engineer. Prior to working with OmniMeans, she was an associate engineer with a private firm where she provided continual coordination with clients and agencies for all aspects of various projects. Her engineering background includes design, roadway and highway improvements, streetscapes, interchanges, bicycle trails, drainage systems, for different counties, cities, and Caltrans throughout the state. Her education includes a Bachelor's of Science degree in Civil Engineering from Cal State Sacramento. She also holds a Bachelor's degree in Health Science from Cal State University San Jose, and she also then holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in Spanish from Cal State San Jose. So if everybody would could welcome Lindsay Van Paris to our team. And next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Larry Wing. Larry comes with 37 years as experience providing a combination of public and private engineering services. He has recently retired from the city of Rockland, where he was responsible for delivery of various capital improvement program that included several large multi-discipline projects. His position with the city of Rockland has made him adept at working with other city departments and contractors on capital improvement projects. He's also been, he was a roadway section manager and senior project manager at HDR Engineering. He was a senior transportation engineer for the city of Folsom, and he was also a senior civil engineer for Sacramento Public Works Department. So he will be serving as our interim city engineer. I do want to add that OmniMeans is currently the chosen engineer for a number of different city projects currently. So both Mr. Wing and Ms. Van Paris have experience and knowledge of the city of Placerville and its working. So I think it'll be a very smooth transition. I do want to add that the period, the closing for applications for city engineer and for assistant associate civil engineer have closed. Mr. Wing is helping us review those, and we hope to have interviews shortly, hopefully within the next few weeks. And then we should have a new city engineer on board, hopefully within the next couple of months, and also a new assistant civil engineer. So with that, we thank them for being selected and being willing to work with us here at the City of Placerville.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for introducing them to us so that we see them around City Hall. We understand who they are, see them at some of these meetings. So I'm going to move on to ordinances. We are on item 9.1. Chief Heller, I believe this is the second reading of an ordinance regarding the Reserve Police Officers Program. Do you have any additional comments that we've learned? Obviously, we hired somebody that has gone up through this process and this program with the City of Citrus Heights. So I can see now how this is going to work and how it's helpful to the city to, one, save some money and do some on-the-job training, if you will, for some of these young officers that are coming out of the academies. So if you have any additional comments, please.
Yeah, absolutely. This was an example introducing Officer Johnson this evening. He's a product of the Citrus Heights, but many police departments that have progressive-minded programs, reserve programs, produce that quality of an officer. So they would come in normally and take on a level 2 position, work their way up. That pool of candidates would compete for a level 1 position and then gain that experience and then become a full-time police officer. So yeah, I don't have anything additional to add. The council, at the August 12th meeting, we introduced the ordinance with the amendment, and we went over the benefits, the cost, the prior budget authority, and my recommendation at this point would be to waive the second reading of the ordinance amending Chapter 13 of Title 6 of the Placerville City Code relating to reserve police officers and adopt the said ordinance.
Thank you. Any questions by the council members? Okay. Do I hear any comments from the public regarding item 9.1? Seeing nobody moving toward the microphone, I will ask a council member to make a motion.
I move that we waive the second reading of the ordinance, et cetera,
Okay.
and adopt the said ordinance.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Ms. Borelli, seconded by Ms. Wilkins. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That passes. We are on item 10, public hearings. There are none scheduled. Item 11. At this point, we're going to review the mid-year crime stats for January through June 2014 and compared to January through June of 13. We all received these, and I believe there are items in the back. Again, this is item 11.1. So, Chief, was there any comments you have regarding this to begin with, and then we can throw it open for questions.
Yeah, if I could just summarize the high points real quick. These are the mid-year stats, so obviously they're subject to change. You have to consider part of these are winter, there's half of the summer, and I've often heard crime stats referred to as a heartbeat. It kind of can change throughout the seasons and whatnot. What we're looking at this point is the mid-year this year compared to mid-year last year. Part 1 crimes, which are your significant crimes, are up approximately 10%. What's driving that is the same thing that drove them in the annual report last year, which is property crimes. So the silver lining is violent crimes continue to track down. They were down about 1% over the annual last year. They're down about 6% the first half of this year. And that includes your homicide, rapes, robberies, arsons, and aggravated assaults. So those are down. Property crimes, on the other hand, continue to track up. And they're currently up approximately 15% the first half of this year compared to the first half of last year. The silver lining again there is last year they exploded to the tune of about 31%, I believe it was, over the entire year of 2013. So if there is a silver lining, it is the increase has been cut in half. And I try to find that silver lining. And there is some good news in there, though. Burglaries, which were really tracking high last year, have started to decrease, although modest. 16% is significant enough to tell us that we are making an impact on burglaries. We attribute much of the same factors that drove crime stats throughout last year, and I'll just touch on those real quick. The prison realignment continues to drive property crimes throughout jurisdictions throughout the state. We know that it's no longer a theory; it's happening. It's occurring as we have these more low-level prisoners released into the community. They commit more low-level crimes if they choose to commit more crimes. The other issue driving it is the economy, although we're hopeful that that's beginning to get some traction. And then we've had some habitual transient offender issues, as everybody's aware of, and that has driven our property crimes. There's been a nexus there. How significant is hard to confirm just because of the nature of the reporting. The one thing I do want to touch on briefly on the habitual transient offender situation is we're still tracking upward as we have been since we began tracking in 2012. However, my third silver lining of this report is for the first time since tracking began, there's been a decrease in those reports and contacts, which I think is significant. Perhaps that has something to do with the cut of the property crime rate increasing in half. I would have to do a little more work on that. But anyway, it was tracking in the first couple months of the year. It was tracking just like it had. It's actually up. The mid-year, it's actually up about 21% overall. That's habitual transient offender calls and contacts, calls for service. They're up about 21% compared to the first half of 2013. However, what we noticed on the radar is in May and June, they've began to decrease. The lines this year are starting to dip under the lines of last year, which is the first time we've seen this happen since 2012 when we began tracking these numbers. So we're looking at about a 9.5%, 10% decrease in habitual transient offender contacts and calls for service for the months of May and June. I'm only reporting on the mid-year, but I can tell you I've looked at the July numbers and they appear to be projected to continue to track downward. So this is significant, and I think a testament to a lot of the work that's been done by various members of staff in the city, some of the efforts of Public Works raising the canopies along Broadway and whatnot. So I think we're gaining traction on that, and that is, I think, a positive out of this report. The things we're doing to deal with the problems we have with the property crimes is we're continuing to identify the hot spots and try to focus enforcement and visibility in those areas. The reserve program we touched on to get some extra help out there along the bike trails and downtown areas and special events. We're also continue to push forward with our social media efforts and expand our Nixle and Facebook and Twitter presence. And the last thing I'd like to touch on is, along with the crime, the hot spots and crime mapping and social media, we've kind of put together a tool that brings a bunch of existing resources what we already have and brings them all to one spot, and it's a app that we can that's free for people to use in both an Apple and an Android format, and it brings there's several modules. There's about 12 of them. I actually brought a handout. All three of you are welcome to grab one on the back table. It's actually the handout is just a copy of the media release that we will push out, but I wanted to share it with the council first and foremost that what it is it's information that's already available in a lot of different places. Our CAD system, our computer-aided dispatch computer system, tracks real-time calls when we dispatch them and the dispositions. What this allows us to do is arm our officers with crime mapping real-time, so it'll show where marks on a map where these crimes are occurring, burglaries, property crimes, whatnot. So it assists the officers because they can get it on a handheld device or in the cars in the computer, but it also assists the public because they can check, around the neighborhood, the whole city, but they can look at the map, zoom in, zoom out, and look where the density of those are occurring. So, the police department doesn't have the lock on deciphering crime data. If you look at your neighborhood and you see 3 or 4 stolen cars have occurred there in the last 6 months, that's a clue to be more observant and don't leave the keys in the car or what, that sort of thing. So very powerful tool. It also has a sex offender registrant mapping module, which is timely with the Halloween and whatnot coming up time of year. I think it's a good tool. A disclaimer on that is any information in there will be a disclaimer in the module. We encourage folks to contact us if they have any questions or want to confirm that data. That data is taken from the existing Megan's Law databases, which are available to the public. There's also a SRO module in there, a school resource module. And that is, again, very timely with the school year starting. Our school resource officer that we worked collaboratively with the school district and shared the costs is now assigned to the 3 schools in the city. This app will allow our students, teachers, parents to communicate directly with that officer in a very timely and transparent manner. And I think that's a huge step forward, because that demographic, particularly the students, a lot of their communication occurs over handheld device, texting and whatnot. So it's easier for them, I believe, to communicate that way with the officer than it is through traditional means. So that's another part of that. There's a volunteer thing on there to make it easy to volunteer. There are several other modules, and basically the name of the game on it is to provide a way to pull all these existing resources to one spot, provide enhanced transparency communication with the community, and basically make our job a little easier and make the public safer and increase the quality of life in the community. So we're going to be pushing that out here in the coming days. The Apple Store, or the App Store, I got to get it right here. The App Store is already there, so if anybody has a mobile device, I don't want to encourage you to use it in the council meeting, but you can search Placerville Police, I think is the key term, Placerville Police, in the App Store, and it'll come up, and it's a free download, and you can play with it. And if you have any questions, call us, or you can grab the handout in the back. And then in the Android, you would go to Google Play, which is the Android version, and that one is not there as we speak, but it should be there in about 24 to 48 hours. So that'll be there for also a free download. And the reason on that one is there's just some updating on the maps that need to occur. So that's pretty much what I have at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the chief?
I do.
Yes.
Thank you, Chief, for the report. Always appreciate getting that. Quick question on the habitual transient offender situations that you've come across. Are you finding, is there a pattern? Is it mainly the local community, a homeless community, or are they people from out of the area?
Well, we spoke to this several times, that we've seen historically we saw a migration, I would call, for lack of a better term. We had documented individuals from out of state, out of the area. I'm thinking Reno, Washington. I'm thinking of the list that I've looked at in reading all the data. I think with the decrease, what I'm hearing from the officers is that we're seeing, again, lack of a better definition, a return to some of our more local individuals that we're a little more familiar with, and which is positive as well, because we can focus a little more on some of the issues of mental health and whatnot to help these people, instead of being overrun like maybe we were before with folks from all over. So hope that answers that.
That does. Thanks. So there are more members of our community that have been here rather than people passing through. Great. Thank you.
Pat, do you have a question?
My question was along the same lines. What I was, and I think you answered it, but I was wondering if, because of the crackdown that we put on trying to weed out, getting rid of the homeless camps and stuff, if that's also has contributed in helping do away with some of this. In other words, they're maybe encouraged to leave. The folks that.
Well, like we've said all along, there's no resources on those hills. There's no resources on that hillside. And so our strategy has been to raise that canopy with Public Works, to expose those campsites so we can get up to them safely, to mitigate the fire danger, specifically with the drought. I mean, we just cannot have people lighting fires in those campsites on the hills. And yes, to push, the strategy has been to push the camps down to where the resources are. And then those individuals can make a decision. We will connect them with mental health. We'll connect them with veteran benefits. We do all this routinely. They have to get to that decision point, and that decision point will not occur on the hillside. And so, yeah, they're left with the decision to make. And if it's an able-bodied person that doesn't necessarily have any of those issues and doesn't necessarily need resources, and maybe they're on just kind of a vacation in Placerville, then yeah, they can continue to perhaps a softer target.
Okay.
I have another question after you.
Go ahead.
Maybe Trish. No, this is not pertaining to this. Is another. But it's a police question.
Go ahead. She doesn't
No, I'm curious. All this, we keep reading in the paper about the officers wearing cameras, And I noticed that Modesto, which is where you came from, that they have them, and I was wondering your thoughts on it, and if you think that it's something that we need to start considering.
Yeah, where I came from in Modesto, we had body-worn cameras that were issued to every patrol officer. And I can tell you, you know, there's a lot of different thoughts. I think there's different equipment. There's body-worn cameras that are on different parts of the body, for example. The ones that were utilized there, I do believe enhanced evidence collection, enhanced our service delivery. They were located up with a powerful magnet up here, shoulder range, eye range. And I think that's critical, that your view, when you start getting into this, you just outfit cameras with everybody. There's different ones and there's different views. And if I put a camera in the center of the officer's body, I'm going to miss two key things. I'm going to miss perhaps a pursuit because it's going to be at the dash, perhaps. Maybe it's high enough, I don't know. And then, you know, if there was a critical incident involving some sort of a weapons exchange or whatnot, then that's going to probably be blocked. So I think when you look at it, it's a little more complicated, the research, but the camera being mounted up there is what was worn. Also, when it comes to citizen complaints or that sort of thing, I don't know for sure that we did an in-depth study. They may have done that since. However, I can tell you that the citizen complaints decreased significantly, and I can get the numbers, but I want to say that they went down almost in half or more. And what's I think drove that is two things. I think that a camera in today's day and age is welcomed by both the community and the officers. We have cameras in all of our patrol cars. We have microphones on our officers. We have cameras pointing out the back of the car, the front of the car. And I think it encourages everybody to be on their best behavior. And it also helps to, I think, mitigate our officers sometimes, and I think that's what we saw somewhat in Modesto, was that some of the complaints we got prior that were sort of hard to say one way or the other, when we received those complaints post body-worn cameras, we were able to invite the individual down and view the video with our watch commanders prior to going forward with a complaint, and sometimes they would drop the complaint, which it provided a nice screening tool as to the validity of the complaint. So as far as us, we're working with our in-camera system to try and find a mechanism or a body-worn that will integrate with it, and that's where we're at currently. Is as we move forward, we'd like to find something that would integrate with the system we have, because I think it's important to have the body-worn, but I also think it's important to have that car covered too, which the body-worn doesn't get the back seat. So everybody's trying to find the perfect tool. This technology hasn't been out all that long, and I think everybody's trying to get through it. And so I think if we can find a tool that integrates with our current system, that would be a win-win. If for some reason that becomes too much of a challenge, then I think we would have to look at moving forward on just the body-worns, because it probably is a one-stop solution. Long answer. You asked me what time it was. I told you how to build a watch.
But, you know, it's certainly in the headlines, and I just thought this is a good time to bring it forth. So thank you for your answer.
Yeah. I think it's in the headlines, but it's not necessarily explained like you just did. So,
Right.
So thank you for the time on it. And Trish, did you have anything? All right. So then we will move on to council member reports. Transit Authority, did you have any meetings, Ms. Wilk?
No, we didn't.
No meeting, okay. Transportation Commission?
No meetings?
No, not since our last one. We had one just before our last meeting. LAFCO, Ms. Patton's not here. I had a SACOG full board meeting. And because of other issues that were going on this afternoon, I didn't bring anything back. But with SACOG, there was some information that was out there, and we'll be voting on at the next meeting regarding active transportation modes, which again are trail paths, bike paths, and other types of modes other than vehicle. So active transportation will be in there, and we'll be making some recommendations on Thursday from the Transportation Committee as far as several projects in the region. I think the total is $5 or $6 million worth of projects. So again, these are your tax dollars that are sent to Washington, D.C., and they come back to us in the form of allocations towards certain types of projects. Active transportation is bicycle, ped. So in other words, like we voted on tonight, our transportation, active transportation project that we voted on tonight was funding for the trail extension behind us and the trail extension from Main Street to Ray Lawyer Drive. So those are our two existing ongoing projects, and those things are then going back to the Transportation Commission to fund. Actually, they're going to the state for reimbursement for those funds.
Right.
So, and one of them, I forget which one, but I think the Ray Lawyer Drive Main Street project is out for bid at this point. It closes, I think, on the 9th of September, somewhere around there for the bidding on that. So, again, those are projects we're moving forward on, and again, they are your tax dollars at work that we've brought back to this region, to this area. If we don't use it here, it goes to other communities that provide those things.
But I would like to inject.
Go ahead.
We have a fantastic transportation commission who pursues these dollars, grants, or whatever whatever,
Right.
and they are certainly to be commended for their, I think, their active. They're on top of it, and as you can see around us, all the trails and the paths and the bicycle and everything that we are being afforded is a result of this hard work by that commission and us backing them, of course.
That commission also attends meetings at SACOG and works with us. In other words, normally the Sharon Scherzinger is at those meetings. At this last meeting, she wasn't there because of on vacation, but we had somebody in the audience who was there, and he also participates on their committee meetings regarding active transportation, bicycle paths, and just general transportation. Even though we have our own commission, we still participate with
we have
SACOG.
to, yeah, exactly.
So,
And Mr. Mayor, I do have one report.
sure.
Okay. I just would especially like to inform the council that we've finished a 2.5-month-long process looking at how we can effectively solve the homeless issues within our city and county. And this has been done by professional facilitation along with Mac Huckabee of the Center. And they've done a fantastic job walking us through a very fascinating project. They were 4-hour-long sessions for 2.5 months and every other week. It was a really intensive process. And what's most significant that who came to the table on this was, of course, the nonprofit and the faith community, but also law enforcement was present. There were meetings that we had representatives from the city of Placerville, appreciated our police officers being there. The sheriff's office was there, parole was there, as well as county health and human services staff and Brian Veerkamp's office. So we had the full spectrum of people that deal with this issue on both sides of it. And for the first time that I can remember, we were able to have very open, honest, respectful conversations that really was a no-holds-barred, let's talk about all of the impacts and issues and try to find a way through this. And so we're done with that process now, and a group of us is working on the narrative to explain the process and then take it to the city council as well as the board of supervisors to see where we go from here. In solutions that not only work for those individuals that need the hand up, those individuals that choose this way of life, and our community. And those are really hard things to balance. So it's been a fascinating process, and I just wanted to fill you in on that.
Thank you.
I have a quick question about
Yes.
that. Any idea when it'll be coming forward? How far along?
We'll be ready for the narrative probably in about a month or so. Yeah, and then it's a matter of, I mean, this is a long-term solution with funding and getting all agencies on board in a coordinated effort that will probably be a public-private partnership. You know, government won't solve it all. And so it's a long-term solution, but you'll be hearing the official narrative in a short amount of time.
Thank you, Councilmember Thomas, for working on that.
I have a report too.
Okay, on SEDCOR?
No, SEDCOR, no, we haven't met. But Mayor Hagan called me and asked me to take his place at a the Folsom Lake Community College had their 10-year anniversary, and they discovered that there had never been an official cornerstone laid, and so, as many of you know, the Masonic Lodge specializes in laying cornerstones and education, and so the Masons were there and did the official ceremony, and they asked our Placerville, Folsom, and Rancho Cordova to participate. So the mayor from Folsom and the vice mayor from Rancho Cordova were there, and we each presented a token to be included in the what?
Cornerstone?
Yeah, in the cornerstone that they are now laying. And it was a beautiful thing that they put on, and this 10-year celebration is going on all week with several things. But that little college, I'll tell you, I can't believe it's 10 years, because I remember going down there for the groundbreaking, and they have just done a phenomenal job, and I'm so proud of them. We have a lot of folks from here that attend that school, and Dale Van Dam, who is at our campus, you know, he naturally has a lot to do with it too. He was there, and it was just a very, very heartwarming day. So anyway, and then I also wanted to say that Mayor Hagan and I were involved in the Sandstorm fundraiser.
Oh, that was great.
And it was quite a turnout of the community.
Actually,
supporting.
the Kiwanis Club was. I was out of town
Oh,
on
I
both
thought
of these
you
events.
were. Oh, okay.
No.
Well, I was there and I served, and I cannot believe, but I heard that we served like 2,500 people.
Right.
It was just jam-packed, and
That was a good example of the community coming together to support the
Absolutely.
community in need, and that's a point that I was making on it. Numbers I've understand are in excess of $80,000.
I never did hear money-wise, but I'll tell you, everybody there was just in a celebratory mood, and I can't tell you the folks from South County that were probably the victims came up and thanked us all for, you know, helping out and whatever, you know, that, anyway, it was a very gratifying night, so.
Thank you for working on both those things, and thank you for that, stepping in for me on those.
You're welcome.
Those couple times I've been pre-schedule things, they come up in the last minute, and I've already had
Understand.
items scheduled.
That's why you have a vice mayor.
That's why you have a vice mayor, and that's why you have a calendar. There were no items pulled from consent. City manager, staff reports. Mr. Warren, we'll start with you because you're the acting city manager until tomorrow morning or Thursday morning?
It's Thursday morning.
All right.
Quick, what do you need to do?
Pierre, did you have anything you wanted to comment on the scoping meeting?
Actually, I think I covered the scoping meeting in our earlier discussion, but the council did ask for a status report on the house located on Wiltsey Way that was damaged due to fire. So I'd like to give a brief report on that. The property is 3039 and 3041 Wiltsey Way. And that's a house that's on it's just on the east side of Wiltsey Way as you cross Hangtown Creek. That's been damaged by fire. Since the last council meeting, I did speak with Peter Pelez, and Peter Pelez is the trustee of the trust now that has ownership of that property. And basically, he told me that he is attempting to purchase the property himself. So he has made a proposal. He's submitted it to the trust. To the owners of the trust, and so he's waiting for a response back from them. He is hoping to get something back from them in 2 to 3 weeks. And his interest is to rehabilitate the unit and make it habitable. So I also explained to him that there was a concern regarding the fire hazard and the weeds and the grass. And I basically told him that we would be turning it over to the fire district and to cite him if he doesn't comply. But he said he wasn't aware of that, so he's going to be hopefully sending in a crew that'll go in and cut the grass and cut the weeds down. But that's the latest on those buildings. Happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Thank you. Any additional staff? Is Mr. Ewell still here? Oh, I
I
thought
do
he
have a
was
quick
asleep.
question.
Just a second. Go ahead, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Rivas, for looking into that. We really appreciate it. The other question I have is I was looking at the house today. Perhaps in your future talks with him, that the tree is also just, really it encroaches on the road in a very big way, and I don't know if that's a part of the project that he's going to be looking at. But did you direct him to get back in touch with you? Is there a timeline before we turn it over how long does he have to work on this in good faith before it's turned over to the fire department?
Yeah, I actually have his email address, and so we're going to be communicating via email. So I will mention the tree, and you're right about that. I remember
it's over on
parking
the
in front of the
public.
house, and it's pretty
in the
low
public
into the
property.
road.
Yeah.
Right. So I'll mention the tree, and I'll try and get a more definitive date in terms of how much time, 3 weeks and X number of days, so that if he goes past that date, then we'll take some additional action.
Really appreciate you following up with that, and I will get back to a concerned citizen who has been contacting me about this. So thank you very much for
Great,
the
you're
information.
welcome.
Okay, now I guess we move on. Yes, sir, Mr. Warren.
For item 16, for September 9th, we have several items we're working on for you. One is the courthouse reuse plan. Mr.
Okay.
Rivas is working on that. The single room occupancy report, an R5 text amendment, notices of completion for both the Western Placerville Drive Interchange Phase 1A project as well as Cumbellic Road Class 2 Bike Lane project, a Measure J report, and also the Animal Control Services contract amendment.
Nice.
So-
Can we start now?
Lots to talk about.
Most of those will be on consent, so. Thank you. Did Steve Ewell have anything else to say, or I'm sorry if I interrupted. It's a little nap over there, but
No, sir.
We can't see you, Steve.
sorry. Nothing to report. Okay, you already did report on your meeting. So at this time, I'll adjourn the meeting, and we will reconvene at 5 p.m. closed session, 6 p.m. regular session on September 9th. I thank you all for attending.